Hello, this is Pastor Frank Lewis, and I'm going to talk to you today some more about The Key. And The Key is a book that I've written, but it's also practical application for healing of emotional woundedness, healing emotional wounds. And as I was telling you the week before, I had an anger problem. Why did I have an anger problem? Because I had been abused. If you've been abused, you probably have an anger problem. Or maybe you didn't stand up like I did. I stood up to my father and I told him if he ever touched me again and knock his face off. I don't recommend that for people. That was what I did. My father was a bully. He never touched me again. And I told the doctor if he ever touched me, tried to give me a shot, I'd knock him through the window. No more shots. My father never touched me again. Anger was my best friend. But some people, they don't rise up in anger because they're too afraid. I lost all fear of my father. But what ends up happening is they run. Behavioral scientists tell us and psychologists tell us that we do one of three things when we're being, attacked. We fight, freeze, or run away. And so some of you may have run away, gotten away from the situation, and some just took it and took it and took it. And that's what happened to my sister. And she's mentally ill today. And it's really sad, really, really sad. And so, but I want to continue because I want you to understand that I didn't come to find the key for you. I came to find the key for me. And once I found the key, and my wife and I found it together, then what happened is we were able to perfect the understanding of how to heal people emotionally in our church. And so I ended up, my first wife ended up divorcing me because she was tired of going up and down the financial roller coaster. It was not emotional, it was some emotional. I mean, yikes, being married to me was not easy. So she, however, really divorced me and took the kids because of my wanting to be somebody. I was so driven. I was insanely driven. And I do believe there's other people out there that are insanely driven like I was, that really are wanting to prove their value, their worth, and their importance. And really come against the belief that I was not only defective, but I hated myself. So what I did is I tried to do so many different things to make money, and I'd make a lot, and we'd live in a big house on a hill with a great view of Pacific Ocean and Los Angeles and everything. But the problem is I make bad decisions, and then we go down the hill, and we actually had to sell the big house because I made a bad decision. And so I was driven. Well, she divorced me, took the kids, and now I was in a 10-year situation where I was in the wilderness. You may have been in the wilderness, and boy, that's not a fun time. I actually, before I was divorced, before she divorced me, I heard the audible voice of God, and the audible voice of God is, he said to me what I was to do was very important to him, and he must have it done. God must have it done. Well, he said enough for me to actually audibly, I wrote down 5 pages of notes, and the 5 pages were pretty exciting because he promised me success, and he promised me that I could have my dream. And my dream, I went to him later, I was so thrilled because I was now going to be successful. God was promising it to me. I had become a Christian during the time that before I married my first wife, and so I was digging in. I wanted to become valuable, and so I thought God could help me. And guess what? He did. But then he kind of, once he helped me, he didn't tell me until I got the Audible Voice 5 pages, there was going to be 38 years, 37 years of preparation for what he had called me to do. Because I said to him, "What's the dream?" And I didn't hear anything back. And I said, "Okay, the dream, I want the dream to be, I'm going to help bring healing, health, healing, and wholeness to the body of Christ, spirit, soul, body, relationally, and financially." Just a small little thing? Not at all, but I had to be prepared for it. So I finally found this, God led me to a woman and became my second wife. And we were married for 1.5 years. And we had so many problems that she left me for 8 months. 8 months she left me. I cried out to God, and it was in that cry, because as I told you at the end of the last program, that I have been through deliverance, inner healing, I have been through years of therapy, and I have been through behavior modification techniques. None of it worked. I was still angry. I would go 0 to 10 in nanoseconds. Well, what happened is when I cried out to God, he led me to a Christian psychologist who was taking the material of the UCLA brain scientists and putting it in a format where we could understand it. It was in that first information session that I found out why I was so angry. And so I decided, whoa, I want to take more of his material and learn more about it. And then I also decided, okay, well, I need more of this, so I'm going to go to the source, the UCLA brain scientists. So I've been studying brain science now off and on for about 20 years. And what happened is that knowing what the problem was great. Knowing what the problem was a very, very key piece, because I had to find out what the problem was so I could eventually be led to the solution. And what the problem is that there's two sides of our brain. There's a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. And you all know that probably. We understand oftentimes that the left side is more logical, and men are more logical, women are more feeling, emotional, and that's pop psychology, and that's really just scratching the surface. What really is, and it's very simple, I'm simplifying it greatly, but the left side comes up with explanations for everything the right side experiences. Now, here's the key. I have an experience. My father slammed that needle into my bottom and yelled at me. That was an experience. The explanation was that not that I ran from him and did something that was not so good, it was that I was bad. And then it was reinforced that I had to get this shot as punishment. And so that punishment kept building till I was eventually phobic and hated myself and all the things that the devil had set in motion. Well, what I discovered in my study of brain science and learning more about it was that when the left side makes an explanation, that explanation needs to go through the knowledge of good and evil. Remember, Adam left us a major problem. He left us with the knowledge of good and evil. The devil said, you will know differently than you've ever known in Genesis 3. You will know differently. Well, what are you going to know differently? You're going to know because the knowledge of good and evil is going to be a part of our brain's ability to be able to explain. So every explanation that that comes through the left side of my brain about an experience I have is always coming through the knowledge of good and evil, which makes it erroneous. Every explanation is faulty. Every interpretation becomes a misinterpretation. And now I believe things about myself that aren't true. Am I bad, or did I just do something that bad? Or did I just do something that was inappropriate? Run from my father who's going to give me this shot. So the key to this is, an understanding is that every explanation is erroneous. Well, what happens is the devil then sets up an erroneous explanation, a faulty explanation, and then reinforces it over and over and over again until I believe that I was not only not valuable, not important, and not worthy. I believe that I was defective, and I believe that I was, in fact, I hated myself. Remember I said that. Got a little problem getting that out there. But I hated myself because I don't hate myself anymore. That's why it's a little problem getting it out there. But the key to it is, and an understanding is so vitally important, is that is how the father of lies sows lies that are misinterpretations of painful childhood events. He uses pain very skillfully to sow lies into young children. It can actually happen in utero. If a father and mother don't want a child, that goes into the child's brain understanding, their belief structure, if you will. Then babies, infants, toddlers, and small children. Why does Satan pick on babies, infants, and small children? Because they can't reason. Because they are totally dependent on mother and father. The ones that are hurting him, they're dependent upon. And don't you think Satan gets a big charge out of seeing to it that parents hurt their children? Yes, he does. Because he knows that if like in my case, I couldn't trust my father, then what was going to happen? I was not going to be able to trust authority. And if I couldn't trust authority, who am I going to trust? Me. And that is something that we all struggle with. We all struggle with trusting ourselves instead of God. I couldn't trust God. My wife couldn't trust God. She was very abused, and it was very difficult for her, very hard. And so here we are, two broken people, married, finding some answers through brain science, but not knowing what to do with it. She had a women's group, I had a men's group, but then we received a prophecy in 2007, and I hope you believe in prophecy. Prophecy is still happening today, and we received a prophecy that there was a key. That's why this book cover looks like it does. There's a key floating in a glass cylinder. See the key floating in the glass cylinder. And this lady prophet said, you are looking at a key floating in a glass cylinder, but all the leaders in the body of Christ have come before, and they're trying to get this key because it's the key to the body of Christ. And so she said, but you and your wife come by, you look at it, the cylinder rises, you take the key. You have the key to the body of Christ. You're going to write the book that's a blueprint for the body of Christ. Here it is. You can get it on Amazon, and it will set you free. It's a key that unlocks the prison doors, as in Luke 4:18, as Jesus said, unlocks the prison doors. What prison are you in? The same prison I was in. An emotional prison. Believing lies, stuck, and wondering why relationships are so difficult, why I'm afraid, why I can't seem to get rid of shame or guilt or whatever. And I have problems with my health. I have problems with my physical body. one of the things that happens is that if I have unresolved emotional pain, many times people will eat. They won't take care of themselves. They'll do things that are not good. They'll work too hard. They'll be in too much stress, trying to prove they're valuable, important, and worthy. They will end up with relationship problems like I did, a divorce. My kids, were not in my life for a while. And what ended up happening is I ended up with all kinds of relationship problems. I couldn't figure up from down, and in the weeks ahead, I'm going to talk to you about some of that. But the other thing that'll happen is not only can I not trust God, but I can't handle finances properly. So you may make a lot of money, but have physical problems or emotional problems or relationship problems. You may have relationship problems, make a lot of money. So I'm going to explain it to you. It's a wheel, but I'm not going to do it right now. So here's the situation. I now got a prophecy that my wife and I hold the key. Well, I had no idea what the key was. I said to her on the way home, "What do you think this key is?" And she said, "I have no idea." Well, 2 years later, we were drafted to start a church. I had already started one, and we had started applying some of these principles we were using in our men's and women's groups. And what ended up happening, people were getting healed, but that church was started with 3 of us, and I got the left foot of fellowship because I wasn't spiritual enough. We were helping people to get free from their emotional prisons, get healed from their broken hearts, get their eyes open to what the truth is and what Satan's been doing to them. And what ended up happening, we got the left foot of fellowship because we weren't spiritual enough, quote unquote. So what happens is we start our church, 7 people, God grows it, but he brings us in the next 12 years, the most broken people you could ever imagine. And so we discovered, out of necessity, the key. And we discovered it. I told you what it was in the first week because I wanted to build your hope. But we discovered it. And then we didn't discover it just automatically a download. We discovered it because we did trial and error. We knew that we had to have, the brain scientists discovered that if you're going to change an experiential lie, that's an experience, getting that needle slammed into my bottom was an experience that was misinterpreted, that I was bad, that my father, couldn't be trusted. So if I'm going to change that, I'm going to have a new experiential truth. If I don't have that experiential truth, and this is something I really want you to get a hold of today, this is critical, really important. Every single thing that happens in my life that's remotely similar to what I experienced in the abuse as a child will automatically be brought forward by the right side of my brain as it goes through files, and if it finds anything that's remotely similar to what I experienced in the past, it'll bring it into the present in nanoseconds. That's a billionth of a second, people. That is incredibly fast. It's so fast you won't even know that it came from the past. So if you have a problem with your wife or your kids, you're triggered, or they trigger you, you get emotionally upset by something they do or say, it's from the past. And it's coming forward, and you would swear, like I did, that my wife was the problem. That's why I got angry at her, and that's why she left for 8 months. Because you'd swear, if you didn't know, that she was hurting, I believe she was hurting me on purpose. Because it was so painful because of what my dad did to me when I was a child, and it hurt from my wife doing very similar thing. And you say, well, why? Why would that be? Well, because God, in his infinite ability to answer my prayers, if you will. I wanted healing. I wanted to be free. I wanted to be unstuck. He got me together with my second wife, and I had to marry this woman in order to be able to understand and to be able to work out my salvation with fear and trembling, as it says in the Word. And she was the catalyst. She was actually my gift. I didn't realize it, but she was my gift. She would trigger me. So because of those anger fits I had, I learned about brain science. I was able to then use that in the church to help myself, to help her, to help the people in the church. And what ended up happening is we perfected, to the point where I wrote the book on it, the key. And that key is a key that will unlock prison doors and set you free. So here we are, stumbling around, trying to learn how to be able to have new experiences. We thought we might call the church, you'll get a kick out of this, we thought we might call the church of the new experiences. But then we thought, nah, that's not going to work very well because that's too new age. So we called it Joy Stones Fellowship. Why did we call it Joy Stones Fellowship? We called it Joy Stones Fellowship because when Jacob wrestled with God, that's a new experience. He set up a bunch of stones as markers, right? To remember his wrestling with God. When we have a new experience with God, what does it always bring? Joy. Always brings joy. Whenever I individually, through soul redemption, Jesus showed me how, according to brain science and how God designed our brains, how Jesus can actually give a person a new interpretation. Now, you may believe that deliverance will be the answer. I'm going to tell you right now, you cannot cast out lies. You cannot cast out misinterpretations. You can't cast out faulty explanations. You can cast out demons, and demons are there supporting the lies, but you cannot cast out the lies, misinterpretations, or the faulty explanations. So deliverance is a critical piece. It's very important. I'd have everybody in my church go through deliverance to get the demons that are supporting the lies that came in through the trauma, get them gone, because then we can deal with the lies more effectively. Inner healing, where Jesus comes into the memory and tries to, doesn't try, he comes into the memory and he's in the memory, but I have found in inner healing for myself and others that the inner healing isn't a change of the explanation, a change of the painful situation. It is more of him just being there, and because he's there, we're supposed to, we end up having a new understanding of Jesus being there. I went through therapy. Therapy is real simply, you've got to come to the conclusion that the therapist is trying to help you come to. But all this, everything that happens to us in the faulty explanation and the lies we eventually believe are below conscious thought. You can't willpower. That's why people are so stuck in the Christian church. You cannot willpower. You cannot say, well, I'm just going to do this or that, and I'm not going to trigger. No, you will trigger because that's how God designed our brains, so that we're not going to be believing lies. That's a gift to us. And so I learned that my wife was a trigger. Your wife, your children, your boss, the people in authority are a gift to you when you understand it. And I'm not going to try to go deeper right now into that. I just want you to know how we got to where we are and discovered the key. The other side is if you put a group together properly, you can actually have the group heal each other. And we perfected that. And we continued to perfect it until the church was actually shut down by COVID. But I want you to know this is how it all happened. First of all, I didn't do this for you or for anybody in the church. I did it for myself because I was so screwed up. And that gave me the impetus when I married my second wife, Rosalinda. What happened is she left and I cried out to God. I'd already made a statement to God that I didn't want everybody that I was going to end up working with to take 40 years or 30 years. Most leaders in the Christian church have taken 30 years to get to where they are. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted it to happen faster, more efficiently, and with less pain. Are you interested in that? Would you like to know how to be able to have the abundant life happen for you without as much pain and not take as much time? That's what I believe you want. That's what everybody I'm working with right now wants, either individually or in group. And so I believe that that's what you want. And if you want that, then you're going to be able to have more explanation, more understanding of how to get to that point, because I'm going to share that with you in the weeks ahead. How do you take less time, and how do you end up with less pain as you're getting healed from emotional woundedness and from the things that have happened to you? So I'm telling you, the good days are ahead. The best days of your life are ahead. I have a life that I love. God is my papa, my daddy, and he loves me, and I love him, and it's because of this key and this book. And if you get this book, it's going to change your life, because then you'll have a better explanation of what it is that I'm sharing with you that's going to be life-changing. And now you know how this came to pass. And in the weeks ahead, I'm going to share why it works so well and how God gave it to me and where you are in your trust of God. So thank you again for being here.